Members, we have Sabrina in the room today joining us this morning. So Sabrina, if you want to give a wave so that the members can see you. The camera doesn't cooperate all that well, so we'll see if it turns to her. Oh, there she is.
Good morning. During the declared emergency in the City of Toronto, Committee of Adjustment virtual public hearings are being conducted by electronic means through WebEx, an online digital platform, and streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. These measures are necessary to comply with physical distancing requirements and a provincial order that limits attendance at public gatherings. This will be a virtual public hearing, and participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx, an online event that is being moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may do so by watching on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting either by their computer, a phone, or tablet app, or by telephone. All participants will automatically be muted on entry. When your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. Only the committee members will be participating by video. Any registered participants will be participating by audio only. We ask that you also mute your devices until you are called on to speak. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. In accordance with sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaw that applies to property, permission to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consent to sever property to create new lots. Anyone in attendance today who wants to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure you include your name, address, and email address because Committee of Adjustment and the TLAB will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with our decision, it may be appealed to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, TLAB, or in some limited circumstances to the Ontario Land Tribunal. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. Today, I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant will proceed with their presentation if required. The committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will comment when you are reaching the 5 minutes. When addressing the committee, please state your name and address and confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent will present the application to the committee first. Please note, the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. If the application is substantially revised, the committee may decide to defer it to ensure the revised application is accurate and all those entitled to notice of the application are informed of the changes. Then, individuals in support of or opposed to the application will be invited to speak. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation. When all other speakers are finished, the applicant agent has an opportunity to rebut issues raised by the speakers. This will mark the end of the discussion. The application will then be taken into committee for a decision. At this time, we need a motion to confirm the minutes of the last meeting. We have a motion? Yes, Zahir? You're muted. We didn't hear you, Zahir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that we accept the minutes of the last hearing. Thank you.
All right, do we have a seconder? Yes, Joanne. All right, all in favor of confirmation of the minutes? Minutes are confirmed. Any declarations of interest of panel or staff for items in the morning slot? I have I declare an interest with respect to number 4. That building is directly opposite my condominium. So, Yim, would you take the chair for number 4?
Yes, I will.
Thank you. Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, are there any requests for deferrals?
I do have one for item 3 by the agent for 1 Gibson Avenue.
All right, I also have, I thought, in the notes, there might be a request for number 14, 1250 DuPont Street.
Yes, that's from planning though. I don't know if the applicant has agreed to that.
Okay, so perhaps we could deal with those two at this time and see what happens. Number 3, can you get Mr. Powell?
I'll try to give him a call because he's not in attendance for now.
Okay.
It's okay, he's here.
He's there? Is he on the line? Yeah. All right, Mr. Powell?
Oh, hello, this is PAL Insurance. How may I direct your call?
Who's this? We're looking for Mr. Joseph Powell.
Give me 1 second.
You know what? I'm going to number 1. If you can get him, that'd be fine, but we're gonna, we've got too many to play around with this. Okay. Number 1, 45 Winneva Avenue. The purpose of this application is to alter the 2-story, 3-unit semi-detached house by constructing a 3rd-story addition. Before us on this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, and we have a planning report dated July the 21st. Mr. Chan.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. This is Christian Chan of C2 Planning on behalf of the applicants, Joanne Billard of 45 Winneva Avenue.
Okay, could you, can we have your address, sir?
Yes, Suite 138 at 157 Adelaide Street, West Toronto, Ontario, M5H 4E7.
Okay, could we have just a brief information with respect to this application?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So just going into an explanation here, this application in its substantially similar form was before the committee in 2019, seeking 3 variances. So this is a reapplication of that former application in 2019 under waiver, seeking similar variances with respect to the main wall heights that were originally sought in 2019, as well as an FSI. In fact, some of the design revisions produced reductions to the originally approved variances, namely for the main wall heights that got reduced to 9.7 meters instead of what was previously applied for, as well as reduction in FSI from 1.26 to 1.17. This was because of a few revisions that were done to the interior as a result of comments from Toronto buildings. The additional variances with regards to the north side yard setback, we had to reapply for under waiver. This is an interesting situation whereby the original Committee of Adjustment approval did not have any side yard setback variances because of the semi-detached nature of the building. However, once the building permits were applied for, the buildings department would not allow the proposal to proceed as it was originally proposed before the committee to be built 0.0 meters from the north side lot line. So this is a reapplication to seek those two variances for the north side yard setback in order to affect the buildings department to approve the construction at the 0 meter setback, not on the party wall, but 0 meters on it. So just at the property line. So this was the reapplication for that. Now briefly to go into the rationale for that. We discussed this also with city planning, both in the original 2019 application, which they were not objecting to, and also in this application where now Mr. Gunther has recommended the imposition of a privacy fence condition, which we're happy to agree with should the committee decide to oppose it. So going into the variances, the proposed overall height of the building is 10.09 meters above established grade, which is almost 2 meters lower than the maximum building height in this zone, which is 12 meters.
All right, Mr. Chan, I don't think we need anything more.
Okay.
It's variance number 4 that was added.
It was variance number 4 and number 5 were the variances that we are applying for under waiver. So the application was reviewed by buildings, zoning examination, and the waiver is based on that as well, with the additional variances 4 and 5 that I added under waiver.
All right, thank you. Panel, do you have any questions? Yes, Yim?
Yes, I don't think I can understand number 5. I know I can understand most of it until the last clause. Number 5. There's mention of the regulation required by, which is 0 from the north lot line, and then it's already on 0. Why do we have that one? Variance 5.
Yeah, so variance 4, number 5, I identified under my review to include in the variance list. Again, as I explained in my submission, my written submission is that try to cover all 0 meter setback variances as a belt and suspenders approach. So as when this gets reapplied for building permits, that nothing is being missed.
Yeah, I do understand your explanation, and I just do not understand number 5 in terms of because you're required by regulation, so on whatever, and 0 from the north side of light, and then you are already there. Then why do you need this?
So this variance is required to build the building to the 0 meter setback on the party wall, not on the party wall. So there won't be any servicing or ventilations that will be projecting beyond the north setback on the party wall. So all the mechanicals is proposed to be on all the other elevations.
Yeah, I understand. Okay, it's fine. I just want to because I still do not understand the need of it, but it's okay. I think that I understand the point you're making, that make sure that you are allowed to build to 0. It's fine. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you for that, member. Another thing I'd like to add, Mr. Chair, is that the variance wording for both variance 4 and 5, if the committee could alter the wording to say that the variance is to be constructed, the building will be constructed 0.0 meter from the side lot line, because this is the issue that we had before with Toronto buildings. So the variance would read, sir.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's the one. That's why I do not understand it. I think that adding it is a good thing, because then it will make me understand it too.
Yes. So the variance would read, sir, for 4 and 5, the altered semi-detached house will be constructed 0.0 meters from the north lot line. The current writing is that it will be located 0.0 meter from the north lot line.
But that's wording we use. We don't construct it, so that's not a change we would make for the variances.
Okay, very well.
All right, thank you. Panel, any further questions or comments, or do we have a motion? Say here.
I'll move a motion. I think the variances are minor in nature, and so I would move approve, subject to community planning condition.
For screening. Is that correct? Nimrod? Nimrod?
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, okay.
Yes, that's correct. The screening on the third floor balcony.
I will second.
All in favor? You have your approval, sir. Thank you. Number 2, 67 Oakmount. Purpose of this application is to convert the existing 3-story 1-unit dwelling into a 3-story 8-unit dwelling by constructing a rear 3-story addition, a rear 2-story addition, a full 3rd-story addition, a rear basement walkout, and a rear 3-story staircase. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, a report from planning, support from 148 Glen Lake, and opposition from 102 Mount View Avenue. Ms. McFarlane.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of committee.
Mr. Chair, I just have one point of clarification before we start, if I could.
Yes?
I understand the purpose says that it's an existing 1-unit, but the report says it's an existing 5-unit building. If I could just get clarification on that before we start, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Ms.
Certainly,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I can respond to that. This is Jane McFarland speaking.
Okay,
the
we
planning
have your
agent.
Could we have your address, please?
Sure, it's 268 Berkeley Street, Toronto, Ontario.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so tell us about this application, please.
Certainly. The existing structure on the property is actually containing 7 dwelling units. There is some confusion because through the process of applying for building permits and the variance application, it came to light through discoveries with City of Toronto rental housing staff that the existing 3-story structure, which looks like a single detached dwelling, actually contains 7 illegal units. So through the process of this application, and as you'll notice on this staff report, we'll be securing and implementing into a rental replacement agreement, which will be registered on title, securing the 8 new units, which is an increase of 1 unit from the existing amount today. And a portion of those will be secured for a period of 10 years at affordable and mid-range rents. It's a little bit complicated in the staff report because there's a component through the rental replacement application about that speaks to demolishing and replacing units, which is the 5 units, which I believe the committee member commented on, in addition to the construction of 2 new units and the addition of an 8th unit at the subject property.
So, Ms. McFarlane, I'm a very simple person. I need you to summarize. There are 7 illegal units there now. You're going to add 1. Some of those units are going to be affordable housing pursuant to an agreement with the city for 10 years. But I also noticed there was some component in there about 20 years.
Yes, Mr. Chair, you have that correct. The existing building contains 7 units. We will be adding 1 additional unit. There is a component to the agreement which is for a period of 10 years and will secure the maintenance of 2 affordable units and 4 mid-range units. The second component of the rental housing demolition agreement is that the owner shall maintain a total of 7 units for rental for a period of 20 years. And the 2 different periods of time are stipulated in condition number 2 and 3, which are outlined on the staff report.
Okay. All right, so,
Now, for clarity, members, the application form submitted with the application identified this as a single-family detached dwelling. So they did not identify correctly what was in that building when they submitted this application.
yeah, but apparently, you know, all these units are illegal. So, okay. Let us, so, Ms. McFarlane, could you just comment briefly on the actual variances? Because and now that we understand what the application's about, I believe you need to speak to the variances.
Certainly. And before we move on, I'd just like to add one additional point, that the comment from the city of staff about the applicant applying for this application under 1 unit, that's correct. The former applicant, the former planner on this file, did apply with the knowledge from the current owners that the current property just contained 1 unit. But through the whole process and discoveries, it was actually confirmed by rental staff that there were more. And I believe that's really what caused the confusion between the description and what's actually there. However, now that we're all hopefully confirmed on the semantics of the proposal, we are seeking 7 variances, which would reflect permissions to build the 3-story addition to the rear and the 3rd story. There are variances for secondary suites, for landscaping, for parking in the rear, for height to the side wall, and for the FSI. With respect to the variance for the secondary suites, variance number 1, I note that this is derived from the planning, the zoning review, which is done by City of Toronto zoning building staff, whereby they classify the proposal in this manner, with a primary suite and 7 secondary suites. I spoke to the zoning examiner about this, and I've done a couple of these in the City of Toronto, and this is the way that the City of Toronto wants to review and classify these types of proposals. The other way would be to classify it as an apartment building, which is also a permitted use, but an apartment building isn't truly reflective of a detached dwelling, which is what this proposal is. So with respect to variance number 1, I note that's very technical in nature. I've talked about or spoken to planning staff about this variance, and there's no concerns, and we believe it maintains the intent of the zoning bylaw. With respect to variance number 2, I note that this is for the 3rd story addition only. The 3rd story addition is in line with the 1st and 2nd story, which are existing at the property. However, they're deficient of the required front yard setback, but because we're leaving the existing building, they are exempt from the front yard setback requirements.
Okay,
So it's my opinion.
All right, Ms. McFarlane, I just want to tell you that you're over your time. I'm not going to stop you. I'm going to let you finish the variances because we interrupted you, but please move quickly.
Certainly. With respect to variance number 3, it's 2% reduction of the landscaping, about 7 square meters. I note that in addition to the soft landscaping in the rear, we are also proposing semi-permeable pavers for the parking area, which are not included, and will also assist with stormwater management in the rear. With respect to parking spaces in the rear as well, I note that This is continuing the existing condition that's on the property. Currently, there is a detached garage that's in the rear of the subject property where parking is occurring with parking adjacent to that. We're removing the structure and we're implementing legal parking in the rear. We've discussed this with transportation staff. They have no concern with the parking layout. Furthermore, the property is extremely close to transit at Bloor and Kiel, which is just to the southeast, and parking is not expected to be an issue at this property. With respect to FSI, I note we're seeking an approval of 0.61 FSI versus the 0.6. We're about 7 square meters over the permitted maximum, which is extremely minor in this situation. And with respect to variance number 6, I note that this is for the side main walls. The subject property is adjacent to an apartment building to the south. Therefore, the side of the main wall will be viewed from the apartment building, which is high-rise, directly to the south. And to the north, we've discussed this proposal with the neighbor immediately to the north, and there's no concerns with respect to those variances. Finally, the 7th and last variance is with respect to a secondary suite, and this is due to the configuration and very much in the same vein as my explanation on variance number 1 for the permitted additional secondary suite GFA. This is a technical variance. And that concludes my explanation, but available to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Panel, do you have any questions? No questions. We're going to move on to the next speaker, Neil Jetty. Mr. Jetty? Is he there?
Yeah, he's there. Just give me 1 second.
Hello?
Mr. Jetty?
Hello?
Mr. Jetty?
Come on. I'm on the call.
All right, Mr. Jetty, we can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
If you could
Yes.
just watch your language, sir, you're in a public meeting. Thank you.
I'm sorry, guys. I was not aware that you guys could hear me.
All right, we
Okay,
can
I'm
hear
on-
you.
yeah, I'm
Can-
Neil. Okay, I'm sorry.
Can we have
So
your
I'm on
name?
the-
Can we have
Yeah,
your
my name's
name and
Neil Jetty.
address? Sir, can we have your name and address and your comments?
Sure. My name is Neil Jetty. I reside at 67 Oak
Fix
Mount
the
Road,
time.
Toronto, Ontario. I'm on the north side of the building. Okay. Are you ready for my comment?
Yes, we are.
Okay, no, I have no concerns with the proposal. The only thing I would ask is maybe that the balconies in the back of the property, that they put some kind of privacy maybe on the facing the south side towards my side, just so that when people are out on their balconies, I'm not seeing them from my property.
Is that it, sir?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. or Mrs. Condi?
Yep. Oh, hi there. How are you?
Good. Can we have your name and address, sir?
Sure. My name is Dan Condi. I live at 211 Glen Lake Avenue, and my house is just behind and a little bit to the north of the proposed building. And my concerns are regarding the canopy. So the trees that are currently on the property, they do provide a significant amount of the canopy that sort of protects the houses around mine from the enormous number of apartment buildings in this neighborhood. So we just want to ensure that there's not going to be any trees taken out that are going to reduce the level of canopy.
All right, we'll have Ms. McFarland address that issue. Do you have any further comments, sir, or is that it?
I guess one comment is sort of generally, and I'm not sure if you guys are going to be able to answer this, but it appears to me that we're sort of at capacity for this neighborhood in terms of population. Are we going to continue to sort of green light additional density in this neighborhood, sort of constantly? And
Sir, that's not within our mandate, sir. We're not able to answer that question. I'm sorry.
Okay. Can I voice a concern regarding that will be put in the minute? Because the density in this neighborhood has, as far as I'm concerned, has passed what is appropriate, and I have some concerns about that.
All right, thank you. Terrace Coolish.
Is she going to answer my question about the canopy?
She will, but at the appropriate time. We have to go through all the opposition first. Thank you. Thank you very much. Terrace Coolish.
Yes, good morning. It's Taras Kulish here. I'm a resident and owner of 102 Mountview Avenue in Ontario, Toronto. This property is immediately in back of the subject property, and we are semi-detached with 104 Mountview Avenue, and so we share the same retaining wall with the subject property. And one of the most important issues here is that there is a drop between our property and the subject property of a significant drop. I'm not exactly sure. It's something like at least 25 feet. We had put that in our submission, and my daughter had taken the measurements. I apologize for not having that figure out at my fingertips. But it is a very significant drop, and in our pictures, in our submissions, we put pictures about that. So our concern relates, one of the concerns relates primarily to the soft landscaping, the potential runoff, and the maintenance of the integrity of the actual land and the retaining wall. I have had discussions with one of the owners, and I understand that the pool, which says that it's going to be demolished, is not actually going to be demolished.
Sir.
Yes.
I'm not sure you're on the right application. Are you speaking to 67 Oakmount Road?
Yes, sir. Can you clarify why you don't think we're on the same application?
Well, I don't understand why you're talking about a retaining wall with Oakmount when you're behind the property.
Chair, if I could just jump in, the pictures in the opposition letter provide pictures of the rear and the drop off that he's speaking of.
Okay.
Yes, thank you very much for that clarification and for putting those photos up. You can see that the retaining walls are quite significant. There's actually 3 levels. There was a drop off, and in the past, going back at least 20 years, these retaining walls were made of stone and quite a significant structure. And when the pool was originally put into the backyard, the integrity of the land was disturbed, and the retaining walls fell down, thereby causing the necessity for the construction of these new wooden walls, retaining walls that you see. So it's a mutual retaining wall, and it's our most important concern. If the soft landscaping is removed or reduced, then this could have an impact on the on water flowing over our land, flooding issues. So we are extremely concerned about anything that can impact the increase of water flowing over the land. So one of those issues is the addition of the 7 parking spaces. I do understand that from a conversation with one of the owners, that there is going to be a drain put in there, which will connect to the sewer on the Oakmount side. But we are certainly concerned, and this is our comment, and we would like the committee to look at this to make sure that there is no substantial increase of water flow and drainage over to our side, which could jeopardize our retaining wall and cause it to fall or increase the flooding. So as a compromise solution, we would be prepared to accept a reduced amount of parking spaces, such as 3 parking spaces rather than the proposed 7. Our comment with respect to the parking spaces and affordable housing is that amount of 7 parking spaces would likely not be necessary if we're dealing with affordable housing, and if we're trying to reduce the number of cars in the area and so on and so forth.
Right.
So
your time is up. Your time is up, sir. Would you just wrap up, please?
Thank you. Our main concerns are with respect to the parking and the runoff, and certainly we would like those issues to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. McFarlane?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I'll address all these comments for the committee today. With respect to the comments from 69 Oakmount, the owner directly to the north, with the request for balconies on the north side of the subject property to the shared lot line, that's no problem. My client, the owner, has had discussions with the owner of the property to the north, and we're prepared to provide those balconies. We'll do so, and we'll commit to that in writing for that owner. With respect to the comments from the owner of 211 Glen Lake, which is the adjacent street to the north, I'm confirming that no trees are being removed as part of this application. That is confirmed and reflected in the omission of any urban forestry comments or conditions, which usually accompany any application whereby trees are required to be removed. So all the mature trees on that property, especially with respect to the ones along the north lot line, which would abut the rear property lines on Glen Lake, will be there. With respect to the comment that the owner of 210 Glen Lake noted on density, I do note that this is a very good opportunity to add rental units in the city of Toronto in a permitted building type within a neighborhood. It's a ground-related rental units that are being proposed, which are extremely desirable, especially in light of a lot of the housing offerings in many neighborhoods. It's consistent with the policies of the official plan and the zoning bylaw, and it meets the other tests of the Planning Act. With respect to the comments made by the owner of 102 Mount View, I note that the soft landscaping reduction is so very minor. It's for 8 square meters, 2%. That does not include the semi-permeable pavers, which also contribute and enhance stormwater maintenance in that rear yard. We are actually improving the condition and the area of soft landscaping in the rear. As I mentioned earlier, the detached garage, which is a current structure in the rear yard, is being removed, and that space will all now be landscaped open space. With respect to the retaining wall, I note that that's really not part of the variances or the proposal before you today, but the application will be reviewed by city staff should we get approval today through the building permit process, and all issues of stormwater or retaining wall maintenance will be dealt with appropriately with engineering staff at the City of Toronto. With respect to the reduced parking, we cannot actually reduce the number of parking spaces provided because that would trigger a new variance, which is not before you today. However, I do agree with the owner of 102 Mount View that the required parking will likely be a lot less than what the bylaw requires by sheer nature of the proposed units being rental and as well as the proximity to transit. So to provide any comfort there, we don't expect there to be full parking in the rear yard. The site will likely operate very similar to the 7 units that are there today, with only a couple cars parking on the property. So I believe I answered the majority of or all of the comments raised from the owners. I would like to point out that the owner did reach out to all adjacent landowners, including the 3 individuals that spoke today. We've had multiple exchanges back and forth to try to address the concerns raised by the adjacent landowners, especially the ones that are not part of the application today, like the pool, the retaining wall at the rear.
All right, thank you. Panel, do you have any questions? Do you have any comments or a motion? Yes, Joanne?
I just have one question with respect to the parking. So is your submission that if you're asking for a variance to allow 5 more parking spots than the bylaw permits, is your submission that if you didn't make that application for variance and still wanted an 8-unit dwelling, you need a variance because your parking amount would be deficient?
Through the chair, yes, that's correct. Our parking variance is not for the number of parking spaces, it's for the location of the parking spaces. 8 units under the bylaw requires 7 parking spaces. So if we were to reduce the number down to the suggested 3, we would have to add that variance in. I do want to note that there's no comments from transportation staff. They are satisfied with the proposal, which is the variances related to the location of the parking spaces only.
Any further questions or comments? Do we have a motion? Yes, Yim.
Yes, I can start. And I accept it's a very good explanation by the agent. And I think that by at the end of the day, we are only adding 1 more dwelling for the and I think that it will maintain a higher standard with this legal conversion. And second, extra comment I like to make is to the speaker from 102 Mountfield. I do not know whether he's aware that the Property Standard Tribunal has a mandate looking after fence and retaining wall between property. For the future, maybe just to make sure that there's someone who look after the dispute on fencing and retaining wall, he can contact the Property Standard Tribunal. And with all this, I'm in support of the application, and I would like to move on with the conditions set out by the staff report, and also the condition of SIFA for about rental conditions, and also they add another condition is the privacy screen on all the rear balconies on the south edges. Then that's my motion.
Right. Joanne?
Yin, would you be prepared to add a condition with respect to that the parking area be constructed of permeable pavers?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, that will be the 4th condition.
All right, do we have a seconder? Joanne, are you a seconder of that motion? All right, thank you.
I'll second with those conditions, the planning report, the screening, And the permeable pavers, yes.
All right. Thank you. All in favor? Have your approval. Thank you. Number 3, 1 Gibson. And the purpose of this application is to construct a 3-story dwelling, detached dwelling with a rear integral garage, a rear ground floor terrace above the garage, and a rear driveway. And with this material with this application, we have material submitted by the applicant. We have correspondence from planning and engineering, and a report from engineering and urban forestry in opposition from 23 Gibson. Is Mr. Powell on the line? Mr. Powell?
Yes, Mr. Powell's on the line, and there's been a mix-up, Mr. Chairman. We received a notice from the City of Toronto changing our hearing date to August 25th. So without any further, and we'll abide by that. So I can sign off now, and we will be back on the call on August 25th.
Well, I don't know, Barb, is there some notice that this has been put over to August the 25th? We have nothing.
Well, the agent requested a deferral. I'm guessing a variance was missed. So
Yeah.
we've probably tentatively rescheduled them, but they do have to be deferred today, and that's what Mr. Paul was supposed to address.
Yeah.
Yes, and we received a notice, Mr. Chair, that the date from the city, that the date was changed to August the 25th, because when today's date went out, with the various variances, there was a mistake in what went out, and some of the variances had already been addressed. So it was suggested by the city that we defer this to the 25th of August, and we agreed to that.
Okay,
so
but,
notice has been placed.
but the matter's on our agenda, and we have to move to defer it, and you know, I assume you're going to be back on the 25th, but that's up to the city.
Yeah.
Our job is to defer this. So, panel, do we have a motion for deferral? There's nobody else on this call.
Yeah, I'll put forward a motion to defer this application.
All right, do we have a seconder? Zahir, all in favor? You have your deferral, sir. Thank you. Okay, the next item is 191 Niagara Street. I will be recusing myself. Yim Chan will be taking over the chair. I'll have to step out. So would you call me when it's finished?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to chair this item. Number 4 is 191 Niagara Street. This is to alter the existing 1.5-story office building by constructing a rear 2-story addition. Can we have the agent to speak, please? And also, can the secretary tell us whether there are other speakers on these items? Thank you.
Yes, we have other speakers. 1, 2, 3, 4 people after the agent.
Thank you. So can we have the agent, please?
Yes,
Joshua Butcher? Yeah.
Yes, good morning. My name is Joshua Butcher. I'm a planner with Bousfields, and we're the planning consultants to the owner of the subject property, and our office is located at 3 Church Street, Suite 200, Toronto, Ontario.
I guess you have some opposition. Let's have a brief presentation of your application then. Thank you.
Can I just, before we get started, ask the application or whoever's controlling the screen just to bring up the presentation material that I filed? No, there's a presentation that was posted at the time period with graphics.
When
Will
was
that
it
be in the
submitted?
supplemental material?
Yeah, it was supplementary material.
Right, so it's been sent to the members, but we don't have it available necessarily. You should have submitted them in time.
I believe I see it under 15E4 presentation material.
That's item 15 though.
Yeah, sorry about that.
All right, okay, I had been told by the application technician at the time that it was posted and would be made available.
Yeah, anything submitted before a certain time, we did send to the members yesterday, but you really should submit materials that you want the committee to see by the deadline.
Which did occur. Okay. All right, so in your file material, there should be a presentation in there, which hopefully, if in the meantime, we can have, that up on the screen. Okay, so the site fronts onto Niagara. It backs onto a rear public laneway that extends along the south property line. And in terms of context, it's located in a pocket of the Niagara neighborhood that is characterized by an eclectic mixture of land uses and built form typologies. And if you go back to the cover letter there, you can see that the existing building, as you can see, the property is currently developed with an existing 1.5-story building, and an existing private driveway is used for parking. And there's one legal front boulevard parking space. And then from a policy perspective, the site is designated neighborhoods under the Toronto official plan, which permits small-scale office uses and buildings up to 4 stories. And the official plan provides that new development will respect and reinforce that character. The property is also located within the Garrison North Common Secondary Plan, which permits employment and residential uses. And the property is zoned under 43886 as amended by the Niagara Area Specific Bylaw, which resulted from a city study to legalize the eclectic character of the neighborhood by modifying the zoning regulations to permit a broader mix of non-residential uses, and also modify the built form regulations to permit a modest amount of intensification. So despite the R3 zone, a long list of non-residential uses are permitted, including offices. So if you can scroll down to the proposal on this cover letter, the application, oh, there it is. So if you can go to slide 6. One more, yeah. Slide 6. One more up. There we go. The application before you today seeks 7 variances to alter the existing 1.5-story building shown in green, and to construct a partial 2-story addition shown in yellow to create new office space. Next slide. As they read on the notice, variance number 1 requests an FSI of 2.27, whereas 2 is permitted. And the proposal represents a minor increase above the as-of-right, which we feel will be deployed in a manner with limited built form impacts. I would also note that if you excluded the basement from the calculation, we would fall below the as-of-right permissions. Next slide. Variance 2 proposes to legalize the informal parking arrangement within the driveway. 4 parking spaces are proposed, whereas 6 are required, together with the lawful boulevard parking space. 5 dedicated spaces will serve the building, so a minor deficiency of 1. We've also provided a parking letter from BA Group, which has been reviewed by the city without concern. Next slide. The third variance requests a 4.75 meter rear yard setback, whereas 7.5 meters is required. However, the existing setback is actually 0 meters, so we're approving that existing condition. Due to the angled nature of the property line, the new addition will actually have a setback that ranges from 4.75 meters at the south to 6.22 meters in the north, with some of that addition actually conforming with that 7.5 meter setback requirement. Next slide. So the building depth, this is the 4th variance, is at, we're requesting 32.85 meters, whereas 17.5 is permitted. However, this is a variance to legalize the existing building depth. due to the angled property lines at the longest points of the new addition, the length will be 24.9 meters at the second floor and 22.3 meters at the fourth floor, with some space in between becoming much closer to that 17.5 meter length. Next slide. The fifth variance requests a height of 12.34 meters, whereas 12 is permitted, so minimally exceeding the permitted height by about 34 centimeters, which has been designed to fall below a 44-degree angular plane, which was established for Niagara Street in that Niagara bylaw. Next slide. The sixth variance requests to legalize the width of the parking spaces at 2.3 meters, whereas 2.9 meters is required. So despite the tight urban nature of these spaces, they've successfully functioned for many years. BA Group's letter also demonstrates their functionality, which has also been reviewed by the city. And finally, next slide. In order to make the building accessible, the seventh variance seeks permission for a 1.32 meter elevator overrun, which will project above that 12 meter height limit. And the overrun would be contained also within that 44-degree angular plane. So in closing, my clients have made efforts to speak with a number of their neighbors. We did have a great conversation with the owners of 95 Walnut Avenue yesterday morning, who filed that letter of objection. And I think, you know, we've been able to explain our proposal and hopefully address some of their concerns related to the design, project, and construction. This proposal has also been
I'm sorry,
revised
sorry to interrupt, but you're over your time, so if you could just wrap up.
Yep. So this proposal has been designed to reflect the changes requested by planning, and so for all the reasons I've cited today, it's my opinion that these variances satisfy the 4 tests set out in the Planning Act, and I would respectfully recommend that the committee approve the variances, and I'd be happy to address any questions the committee may have.
So thank you very much, Mr. Butcher. And can I ask our panel members to, do you want to ask questions to, or you want to wait until the opposition speaks? Okay, let's have the first speaker, please. I do not have the name here, so and also would like to have the staff to keep time because I don't have the facility here. Thank you.
So the next speaker should be Dirk Leclerc.
Hello, my name is Dirk Leclerc. I live at 193 Niagara, directly north of it. Just a minor question here. The laneway in the back, when we moved in 20 years ago, we had easement access to the what is now the proposed parking area. My concern is that the laneway ends at the back of the building, and I was wondering what sort of requirements or fire requirements they would be to have 2 accesses to a laneway in the back. Should there be some sort of fire or a situation in the back where we could not get out on the north side of the laneway, we would always, and previously had easement access to go through the side of the building at 191 at Niagara. That's my comment.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
So the next speaker should be Joshua Beatty.
Hello, thank you, committee. My name is Joshua Beatty. I am the owner of 95 Walnut Avenue in Toronto.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. As the agent said, Joshua, we had a good conversation with the owners yesterday, and we really appreciate that. And I think a lot of our concerns that we outlined in the letter we submitted were addressed. The 2 that I would speak to, with one final overarching comment, are on privacy and HVAC, and we back on the west side of the property, so our backyard and second floor bedrooms and bathrooms look into the property, and our concern was around privacy. I think you can see us there as 95 Walnut. I think some of our concerns would be alleviated with having either frosted windows on the west side, windows up the subject property, or as the owner mentioned, potentially that will be the bathroom area, and therefore both properties, the subject property and 95 Walnut and the homes along 95 would have privacy, and that would be satisfactory to us if some sort of compromise was made there. The second piece was around the HVAC equipment on the roof and just thinking about noise, given it's an office building in a residential area. But again, I think the owners were very amiable and willing to think about the placement of the HVAC equipment on the roof, and whether that's putting fencing around it or some type of sound barrier. And I think that that assurance was very welcome, and we appreciate that from the owners. And then finally, I think while it's not ideal to have additional office space in a residential community, at least from our conversation with the owners yesterday, probably different a little bit than what we wrote in the letter, we had some good assurance that it's going to be a building that's built with design and aesthetic as a priority, and that was very welcome from our end, and so we just appreciate the time the owners spent yesterday to speak with us. And I have no further concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Beatty. Just one question from me. Can you repeat your request for frosted glass? Is it you're asking all the windows on the west side, or just some of them? Which
so
one?
It would be, it would be the windows on the upper, the two new floors that are additions.
Okay.
2 additional floors. Yeah.
Okay,
the ones
thank you.
that would look down into our building. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And you said that the owner has agreed to that, or?
I wouldn't say agree. I don't want to put words in their mouth, but we spoke about that possibility, or the possibility that the rooms on the west side of the building of the subject property would be washrooms, and therefore would have their own privacy, and that would satisfy us as well. I think our concern was to have open offices looking into the bedrooms of our residential properties, and I think the owners were concerned about the same thing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So please, next speaker. Thank you.
The next speaker should be Lorraine Jansen.
Lorraine, you've been been unmuted. Go ahead.
So, Ms. Jansen, please go ahead. You have 5 minutes.
Yes, thank you very much. It's Lorraine Jansen Koistra here. I'm at 99 Walnut. And so I'm one of the properties who will be most impacted by the additional 2 floors on the proposed buildings, because they will affect both our privacy and our shade, our element of sun. I'm reassured by what Josh has just explained about the owner's willingness to take into account our concerns about noise with the HVAC system and privacy with the back windows backing onto the lane, and so I don't have anything further to say at this point. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.
And the last speaker is Elizabeth Quantz.
Yes, I'd like to first of all.
You just need to state your full name and address, please.
My name is Elizabeth Quantz. I live at 97 Walnut Avenue, which is directly behind 191 Niagara Street. I have lived at that address for 25 years. I would argue with one of the comments that your agent made that they had had outreach to people in the neighborhood. I have never been approached by the owner or the construction company that they have working for them. They frankly have not been very good neighbors. We had problems with demolition of the interior of the building, which started without their obtaining a permit and was abruptly canceled with a lot of debris left on the outside on the property, which attracted, which was became a nuisance, attracting other garbage and rats. And we had to launch a complaint to the city to get an order put on to have it removed. So, you know, when I've made attempts to talk to people working in the property, I found that they were very unfriendly and did not want to give us any information. I finally found out that through Dirk Leclerc, who's already spoken to you, that they were it was a nursing home company that was planning an office.
Excuse me, Miss Wong. The construction issues you have is not in front of us, and we cannot have comments on that.
Okay,
could you focus on the impact that you,
well,
as labor,
the addition to the height of the building will certainly impact all of us on Walnut Avenue, because it will cut off light to our gardens, which are already fairly heavily shaded by the existing building. And I would point out that although the building is described as a 1.5-story building, the upper floor has very high ceilings, and the addition of 2 extra stories is going to increase the height considerably. And with the fact that there is no setback of the ground floor building from the alley, the shadows are certainly going to be greatly increased. But what I said before was wanted to establish that I have very little reason to trust any promises that these owners make as to whether they will honor the conditions of the variances.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wong. Is that all you have to present to us?
Yes, this is all I have at the present time. But I warn them we will be watching them very closely.
Thank you. We have the agent back, Mr. Butcher, address to the concerns raised by the previous speakers, please.
Certainly. So just regarding Mr. Leclerc, I believe he was at 93 Niagara Street. So just his concerns about easements and laneway access and all of that. I mean, this variance application will not expunge any easements that currently exist, and that certainly won't change your access at all. And that because this building fronts onto Niagara Street, which is a major street, you know, that's where all the fire route access would be from. And again, the building code has very specific requirements around distances from main entrances to fire hydrants, and so that will all be confirmed through the building code process. But I'm not an engineer, but given the width of that laneway, I'm quite confident that that would not be a fire route access, because you couldn't get a fire truck down there. So there shouldn't be any concerns with that. With comments with Mr. Joshua Beatty, who we met at 95 Walnut Avenue. Again, we had a good conversation yesterday, and you know, the owners are committed that, you know, the views are not to the west, they're to the east towards the downtown. They have not got to the point where they've actually got the floor plans all figured out yet, but you know, they will agree to either putting privacy there or putting washrooms there, which could coincidentally actually result in the elimination of windows. And that they've also agreed to have a conversation with their mechanical consultant to figure out where they can put the HVAC equipment to move it as far away from those neighbors as possible. And that's kind of similar to, I guess, addressing the comments of Mrs. Lori Jansen at 99 Walnut Avenue. Again, you know, they don't want to be looking down into people's houses either. And then just regarding the comments from the owner of 97 Walnut Avenue, I will apologize on behalf of the owner that you weren't approached. I understand that they've gone around and knocked on some people's doors, so you know, I apologize on their behalf. I know in working with them so far that, you know, when people have come forth, that they would be happy to speak with you after this in an effort to address your concerns. Yes, while the addition is increasing the height, it is only 34 centimeters above what is actually permitted in the zoning, and while the existing building is constructed right to the laneway, the addition certainly is not. It's set back quite a ways from that rear lane. And you know, I don't want to get caught in a he said, she said situation. I'm just messaging back with the owner, and they understand that some of that debris had actually been dumped on their laneway by an adjacent property owner, but they agreed to clean it up. So I don't exactly know what happened there, but I know that, you know, if you want to have a conversation with them, I know that the owners would be happy to do so. And that is part of the building permit process. There's a whole construction management plan that has to go in place, and they intend to use their existing driveway, which traverses down the side of the property, and not that public lane, to limit any impacts that would on the laneway and adjacent properties.
Miss, you finished?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I have one question myself. I heard that some believe there's some easement or right of way from the neighbors to that lane. Is that true?
To be honest with you, I'm not aware of it, and I haven't noted it on an easement. It is my understanding that that laneway is a city-owned laneway. Yeah, so I'm not aware of that. I believe it's a city-owned lane, but certainly the approval of these variances would obviously not impact any easements that are registered on title.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions to the agent from the panel? Okay, Mr. Butcher, before we move, we take it into the panel consideration, will you want to add anything else?
No, I think hopefully my presentation there illustrated the extent of the variances, and I was able to answer the questions to the best possible ability. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. So panel, any comments on this or motions, please? Okay, Joanne, please. Go ahead.
Okay, I just have, offer a few comments. I have some concern with respect to the height with respect to the elevator shaft. They are lessened with respect to that is located on towards the street side. And if we were to approve this, I would want to ensure that height remained where it was and there was no changes with respect to the location of the height variance to accommodate the elevator overrun because of impact on the rear neighbors. I think that the setback as presented in the variances certainly looks large, but as has been noted in the submissions and is evident from the plans that were provided to us before, that represents the existing building at the first floor. And the additions are set back, 4.75 would be the setback for the second and 6.22 for the third. So I'm satisfied with respect to that. I really, I don't think, whether or not we suggest that there be some screening on the balcony that may be at the rear, I think that's one thing. I think trying to put a condition on with respect to windows and frosting is very hard to enforce at any time in terms of longer term. And if it is indeed an office building, the likelihood that someone is standing looking out that window for any prolonged period of time is not great, but we can't, it would be very difficult to put in a condition that we would be able to ensure would be enforced. On the whole, given the site characteristics and the, for lack of a better word, the eclectic nature of the neighborhood with respect to the variety of uses that are present and trying for them all to coexist. I do not have a concern with respect to the application as submitted, provided that it would, the height overrun variance would be tied to the plans so that the elevator shaft would not be relocated to the rear of the building. Those would be my comments.
Thank you, Joanne. Anyone else?
Ms. Chan?
Yes, go ahead, yeah.
I would just like to concur with Ms. Hayes. I think she's said everything that needs to be said, but I'd like to just add that also compliment the agent for having reached out to some of the neighbors and tried to accommodate, and at least look into possibilities of improving privacy issues that have been raised or concerns that have been raised. And as Ms. Hayes has indicated, these are beyond our capacity to enforce. So given given the totality of what's been presented, I do believe that the application is well within the realm of being approved. And I, for one, would be quite happy to move a motion
Yes.
to approve the application.
Can, Sahir?
Yes,
Can I suggest a condition that although we can, I agree with the privacy screen on the windows, but also the mechanical rooftop unit, we can actually impose aesthetic and acoustic screen, and that is actually quite common in many commercial buildings that will require that kind of screening anyway. So we can impose that. I think.
Yes, I concur with that, and I think if that could be one of the conditions as well.
That'll just be difficult to impose because we don't have drawings showing it, the location or anything like that. Because who's going to interpret acoustic screening?
There's okay, maybe yeah, because they didn't put in, but in my experience that there's a very strict regulation of OPC requirement for mechanical units, and that the condition will be stated or in the building code requirement. There's certain distances and height.
Right, so that's a building code issue. We're only dealing with zoning with minor variance applications.
Okay.
So then zoning would have to try to interpret that condition, which is different than building code.
Okay, I agree. So, okay, do we have a motion then, please? Yeah.
Zahir, would you be prepared to, with respect to my comments, with respect to the elevator shaft and that variance, talk to, let's say, the north elevation drawing that clearly shows the elevator overrun enclosure so that that is not moved towards the rear, and opaque glass on the balcony on the west elevation?
That would be fine.
Okay, then I would second that motion then.
Okay, all in favor?
Sorry, Joanne, what's the condition about the elevator shaft? You're muted.
Sorry, let it be in accordance with the plan, and one of the drawings that's shown on is the north elevation drawing.
So the elevator shaft should be tied.
Overrun enclosure.
Okay, so tied to that, the north elevation.
Yeah, just so I you know, in terms of reconfiguration, that it doesn't end up being at the rear of the property instead.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So, all in favor, you got your approval, sir? Thank you, panel.
All right, the next item's number 5, 320 Front Street West. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant and correspondence from Transportation Services. The purpose of this application is to construct an enclosure and service platform around the existing generator. Mr. Ortiz?
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Can we have your name and your address, sir?
My name is Arnold Ortiz. I'm the architect for Gensler Design. Address is 150 King Street West, Suite 1400.
Okay. I don't think, sir, we need a presentation. Panel, do you have any questions? Yes, Joanne?
Just one question. Reading the comments from transportation and their indication that they may require the door design to be modified, do you have any concerns with respect to that?
No, we can take a look at that because essentially the issue that they're asking is that it swings out so
Yes.
that we would have to take a look, see if we can make it swing inwards. But
thank you.
Overall, I think we can take a look at how we can resolve that.
Thank you.
Would you have any objection, Mr. Ortiz, to that being made a condition?
We would have to actually look at it because the only issue that I see there is that the platform is a fixed platform that actually TSSA has requested. So the only way we could probably resolve it if that platform was actually movable. And you know, TSSA are not very flexible. So we would have to, negotiate with them if that was possible or not.
Well, so perhaps we could add a condition that you satisfy them with respect to the door? Would that be?
Right. Another option could be a barn door or a sliding door as opposed to a swinging door. So that way it stays within the property.
Yeah, but I think the best we can do is give you the make it a condition that you satisfy them. However you satisfy them is your business and their business, but not ours.
Yeah.
Okay.
Understood.
Thank you. Panel, any further questions? Do we have comments or a motion? Yes, Joanne?
I'll make a motion, through you, Mr. Chair. I would move a motion to approve the application, as I do believe it is indeed minor, but I would put the condition that the doors be built to the satisfaction of transportation.
All right, thank you. Do we have a seconder? See here? All in favor? All right, thank you. You have your approval, sir. Number 6, 115 Wolseley Street. The purpose of this application is to convert the existing 2-story, 4-unit residential building to a mixed-use building with 3 office units in the basement and 2nd story and 2 residential units on the 1st floor. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, Mr. Riley.
Hello, this is David Riley from SGL Planning and Design. Happy to speak to this application for you guys. Oh, and the address is 1547 Bloor Street West.
Yes. Do we have so there's not too many variances? We have a very brief explanation because we have some opposition.
Certainly.
Go ahead, Mr. Riley.
Certainly. So this property is located very close to the Queen Bathurst intersection. It's located within the neighborhood's designation. And as you could probably tell from your review of this file or the site visit, the building was originally constructed as a non-residential building. So within this neighborhood, there's other examples of buildings similar to the above, which have been used historically or continue to be used as non-residential uses, including a building just southwest of here at Wolseley and Markham, as well as just west of which is just west of the subject site, as well as other buildings to the east at Wolseley and Ryerson, all within the same residential zone category, all within the neighborhood's designation. So this proposal is really to recognize the evolving use of the building and proposes a mix of residential and office uses. So the first floor would have 2 residential units, one in the front, one in the back. The second floor would have 2 office units, one in the front, one in the back, and then the basement would be 1 office unit. So it's important to note that in addition to residential uses, the official plan policies for neighborhoods do permit low-scale institutional uses as well as small-scale retail, service, and office uses such as proposed. And in my opinion, this would fit under that category of small-scale office uses. So 3 variances are required to facilitate the proposal. The first 2 variances are related to the use of the building as a mixed-use building and to permit offices. So when we first submitted the application to the city, it was actually an application to increase the size of a home occupation, which is how the units were being used. However, the city had some concerns with this approach of varying the size, that maximum size of a home occupation, to a percentage that would be higher than, I believe it was 45% in the bylaw. But they did understand that recognizing, and they do recognize that the building is unique within the neighborhood and is characteristic of a mixed-use building. And as such, the city actually recommended that we rethink the application to permit offices as a standalone permitted use, given that the official plan recognizes and permits small-scale office uses within neighborhoods. So the owner decided to amend the application in line with this recommendation from the city. And as you know, the city has not expressed any opposition to this application that is before you today. And then the last variance, of course, is related to parking. We don't require any relief from the number of parking spaces to be provided. There are 3 parking spaces provided, and in addition, we've added 8 short-term bicycle parking spaces to meet the city's requirements. The variance is required, though, to recognize that the existing access of the parking spaces is from a public street, which is Willis Street, which runs directly behind the property. So while this street is a public street, technically, it actually functions and looks very much like a laneway, with service and parking access to buildings along Wolseley, as well as the buildings that face Queen Street West. So while a variance is required for the location of a vehicle entrance to a public street, in my opinion, it's really a technicality, as the street really does function as a laneway, and it reflects the existing condition of the property today and is no different really than the condition of virtually every other property on this block. So in my opinion, the proposal is appropriate, and it does reflect an appropriate use of the property in line with permitted uses of the neighborhood's designation, and it complies with all other bylaw requirements and can be accommodated without the need for any external changes to the building. The proposal also improves the parking configuration in the rear over what exists today and adds bicycle parking spaces. So overall, it's my opinion that the proposal meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, thank you, sir. Any questions, panel? All right, let's move on to Mr. Lamucci. Mr. Lamucci, is he there?
He was here, but I think he just left, so I can call him back if you want.
All right, call him. There is no next speaker on this.
Hello?
Mr. Lamucci?
Hello?
Mr. Lamucci?
Who is that? Hello?
Hello?
Yes, how can I help you?
Yeah, this is a committee of adjustments. You're supposed to be speaking to a matter at 115 Wolseley Street?
Oh, yes, yes.
Can we have your name and your address and your comments, please?
Okay, my name is R-O-D, first name, last name L-I-M-O-O-C-H-I. I am representing the owner of 117 Wolseley Street.
Yeah. What's your address, sir?
117. Just give 1 second. Let me just give you.
No,
I want to give you the address of the client I'm representing.
no, we want your address, sir, for the record.
Oh, for the record, it's I am at the 991 Bay Street.
Okay. Can we have your comments, sir?
For the comment that the impact and the in terms of the shadow and as well as the privacy on the adjacent property, which is my client's property.
So that's what your client's concerned about?
Correct.
Okay. Anything else?
The next is also the number of the parking, and then the more residents they occupy, more of street parking and what they are offering on that base.
Yes. All
That's
right.
basically it.
All right. Thank you, sir. Panel, do you have any questions? No. Let's go back to Mr. Riley.
Hi there. So with respect to shadow and privacy, of course, there's no changes to the building. There's actually, there will be no impact. This is an existing building. So with respect to shadow and privacy, there is really no change.
All right. What about parking, sir?
With parking, we don't require any variances with respect to the number of parking spaces. We are formalizing 3 parking spaces in the rear and providing for formalized bicycle parking spaces. And so this is in line with the city's minimum requirements for parking. And of course, the only variance is related to access, but as I mentioned in my presentation, it's really no different than the access to the parking for virtually every other property on this block.
All right. Thank you, sir. Panel, do we have any questions or do we have any comments? Do we have a motion? Yes, Joanne.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I would move to approve the application. This is a very short street. I think the impact would be none or negligible. The characteristics of the building are not changing. It's close to transit. There is no parking variance. I think, as noted, there are other examples of mixed-use properties in the area, and I would move to approve the application with no conditions.
All right, thank you. Second? Yes, Yim. All in favor? Have your approval, sir. Thank you. Number 7, 215 Major Street. And the purpose of this application is to construct a rear one-story detached garage. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant. We have correspondence from Transportation Services. We have a report from Urban Forestry, and we have 5 form letters in support. Mr. Portalance?
Oh, yes, hello. My name is Hector Portalance, and I reside at 130 Milverton Boulevard.
Yes. I don't think, sir, we need your a presentation. Do you have anything to say before I go to committee?
I don't really know, I guess, if everything's clear.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Panel, do you have any questions? Any comments? Do we have a motion? Yes, Nimrod?
I think the variances are minor in nature, and so I would move approval of the requested variances subject to urban forestry condition number 2.
Yes. Do we have a seconder? Yes, Joanne. All right, all in favor? You have your approval, sir. Thank you. Next application is 199 Dover Court Road. The purpose of the application is to convert the existing mixed-use building containing 2 dwelling units and a storage space into a duplex and to construct a 3rd-story addition with a south side balcony and a roof terrace. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant. We have correspondence from planning and transportation services, and we have considerable opposition from various addresses on Dover Court Road. Mr. Galbraith.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Can we have your address, please?
My address is 1 Yonge Street, Unit 1801.
All right, thank you. Can we have your presentation, please?
So the subject property is an old stable that is located, that only has frontage on the lane behind Dover Court. The image on the screen is very helpful, thank you. It is accessed via a mutual driveway to Dover Court or via directly off the lane. It is an existing legal 3-story duplex side by side, and what is proposed is to convert the interior space into a different duplex so that it can be accommodating multi-generational housing for the owner and his elderly mother. There will be a main unit which will be 3 stories tall, and effectively a secondary suite which will be barrier-free access and no stairs on the ground unit, the one that's marked accessory unit on that drawing there. The height of the proposed building will be increasing, I believe it is 1.6 meters, but it will retain the slope, gabled roof sloping down towards the houses that front onto Dover Court, to maintain that relationship and maintain light and privacy to the extent possible, given that there's 13 existing windows facing those houses, and new windows, fewer but new windows will be added to that face. The orientation of the building, however, is largely going to be changing to be oriented more towards the lane. So on the view on, if you could back up one, okay, so for that, there we go, thank you there. So the windows this is the west elevation, and those windows face the residential properties on Dover Court. The second floor windows, there's only 2 of them now, so windows are being removed. One of them is for a 3rd bedroom, and the other one is in a hallway. Not a lot of overlook from those. And the upper windows, the leftmost one is over the sink in the kitchen, and the other one is a skylight over a staircase. And so opportunities for overlook have been, I think, minimized by orienting the use of the house, primarily the main living spaces, towards the rear lane. So the dining room, the living room and such, those are oriented towards the lane. The 3rd floor deck is inset within the footprint, you can see it there, new deck, is inset within the footprint of the house, and it is located at the southeast corner. Again, to the extent possible, away from the adjacent houses so that there isn't overlook from the deck either. Again, it's oriented towards the lane. So I think this it's a unique property, and I think, in my opinion, the proposed renovations have been sensitively designed. They're adding a green roof, recognizing that the property is so small and it's got 71% lot coverage already, that by adding a green roof, they're able to at least increase the amount of water retention on the property and help control runoff. The variances that are requested are largely the result of the unusual nature of this property. For example, it has no front lot line. All of the lot lines are considered to be side lot lines under the zoning bylaw. And the FSI, notwithstanding that it may look very high, but the existing FSI is, I believe, 1.87. So a 0.02 increase in the actual FSI as a result of the renovation. I think that's it for me for now. I'm happy to answer any questions or respond to any comments from neighbors.
All right, thank you. Panel, any questions? All right, thank you. Tola Adjeo. Tola Adjeo.
Yes, hello. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can. Can we have your name and your address for the record, please?
Yes, Tola Ajao, or Justine Ajao, you may also have as my official first name, but Tola is fine.
Yes.
And I'm at 199 Dover Court. I am in the building, the house. I own the house that is that was formerly attached to which 199A was formerly the coach house, or
yes,
stable, as the.
All right. Can we have your comments, please?
Yes. So now perhaps my math is off. I'm just going to start with the question of the height. But I just did a quick calculation. I was interested to listen in on proposal number 4, a proposed height increase in that one, Walnut and Niagara Street, was 34 centimeters above what was allowed. And in this case, by my calculation, this was actually 3 meters. Not 1 point something, but actually over 3 meters over what was allowed, Mr. Zimmerman's proposal.
All right, which variance are you referring to? Because I don't see a height variance of 3 meters.
Sorry, I am referring, just get it here, to variant.
I think it's the wall height, variance number 2.
Thank you, yes. 3.37 meters. And when I subtracted the proposed height of 10.87 by the permitted height of 7.5, that's what I came up with. Yeah. In any case, as the designer or architect has acknowledged, it is a height that is significant in terms of a change. And that's the main concern, in addition to the setback. As I have indicated, this lane side, which, although it's not the orientation for the property, the orientation, as Mr. Zimmerman has explained to me, I seem to be the only one of the tenants who Mr. Zimmerman has, or rather, owners, adjacent owners who Mr. Zimmerman has reached out to. But as he and his designer have acknowledged, the orientation is on the lane, and there seems to be lots of interesting, nice things, opened up to the lane. But actually, all of the use and a very, very tight, frontage really is all on the the Dovercourt side, right? That's where Mr. Zimmerman's entrance will be, as I understand it. That is where the shared driveway is. The driveway is shared between 3 properties. It's very tight between the back of my house and my tenant's little yard. It would block out our light. It would block view. In addition to the addition, the height, the raising the height of that wall. There's also no setback. Any setback that is existing is shrunk in his plan. I had a concern about ice and snow falling. I really do hope that going forward, although my letter may show that Mr. Zimmerman's tenants have been very difficult, honestly, and Mr. Zimmerman himself has not in the past made much of an effort to reach out to tenants or to be particularly helpful when it came to problems that naturally come up in such a tight quarters. But I really hope that going forward that will change. But this is a bit of a this is not such an encouraging sign. Yeah, I mean my letter is quite specific. Again, I'm very concerned about variance number 1, 2, and 3, all of which relate to height, or sorry, 1 and 2 for height, as well as the variance that regulates setback. So that's 4, 6, and 8 in his proposal. One of the other tenants
Miss Ayeho, your time is up, so perhaps you could wrap up.
Okay. So again, as the designer has also acknowledged, this is a small space. The space, Mr. Zimmerman's property, it abuts onto a very tight space where there's a shared lane that is not easy to manage between 3 properties, including Mr. Zimmerman's. In addition to that, there are 2 other properties that try to use green space and have entrances and exits, all in what's already a distance of maybe 3 to 5 feet altogether. And it's very concerning to me, as well as to my neighbors, that Mr. Zimmerman is proposing to increase the height of his property, minimize the setback, and up till now, really with no consultation or reaching out to us other than a quick phone call with me. I'd be happy to speak with him more. I think what would be great, as one of the my neighbors suggested, is to have a proper kind of meeting. We're glad that it's Mr. Zimmerman himself who wants to move into the property with his mother. That's a great sign. But we really would ask him to reach out and consult and really just to start from scratch with this proposal, because it's not going to make life any easier for anybody there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Panel, do you have any questions? All right, let's move on to Ms. Carrera. Debbie?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Debbie Correa, and I live at 688 Willard Avenue in Toronto. I shall be referencing the supporting material dated July 21st, 2021 by Galbraith and Associates, specifically the photograph where you are looking east along the driveway. I also would like the committee to be made aware that I currently am in a land dispute with the applicant, Mr. Peter Zimmerman, and as such know that I am here to discuss matters in regards specifically to the planning issues of this application. Firstly, I would like to be very clear that I am in opposition of this application and have been opposed to it from when I first found out about it in January. My feeling has been that the land dispute should be resolved before any decision in regards to this development is made.
All right, Ms.
I have
Carrera,
ma-
Ms. Carrera, that's not our mandate. We're dealing with the variances. So please address the issue of impact on, you haven't told us your relationship to this Dovercourt property. You told us you live on Willard.
Well, yes, what you see in the picture provided by Galbraith and Associates is the back of my property on the right side, 197 Dovercourt Road. My family and I have used this space before Mr. Zimmerman became owner of 199A Dovercourt in the mid-90s. I have specific concerns with the variances for height, as well as the proposed balcony. Variances number 1, number 2, number 9, number 6. 199A Dovercourt Road is an irregular shaped building on a lot that does not face a street. The property directly in front of 199A does not belong to the applicant. 199 Dovercourt belongs to a different owner. She has just spoken about her concerns. The G-Renter survey that Mr. Zimmerman provided from 1986 is outdated. I have no further comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Galbraith?
Thank you very much. Could I ask that the letter that I submitted to, that would be the one, thank you. If you could scroll down, there's some good photos. Here we are. So the one with the blue there, thank you very much. So this pertains to variance number 1. You can see the existing size of the, in blue, of the existing building. And the amount that is being proposed above it, in my opinion, is not a significant amount. And as you can tell by this, it is oriented towards the east, which is the right side of the building, which is towards the lane. The actual impact to the yards on the west side is minimal at most, and I think great consideration has been done or has been taken specifically to avoid impact, to reduce the amount possible, including by reducing the number of windows facing those properties to increase privacy, and by reorienting the use of the house towards the lane, again, to increase privacy. If you could scroll down, please. As to the, keep going, to the wall height question, here we are. So again, as I previously mentioned, because all of these yards are considered side yards, because it doesn't technically have a front lot line, all of the walls of the building have to comply with the main wall, the side main wall height requirements. And so the pink area, so this is, sorry, on the left is the existing building, which also doesn't comply with the bylaw already, and on the right is the proposed, and highlighted is the areas of the building that are subject to the wall height, at least, you know, from this view. So there is the dormer is the area that might most impact the properties onto the west of the building, and in my opinion, that dormer is not a significant increase in shadow or in view or privacy, and that the variance is minor and meets the 4 test. And the variances for wall height that are not related to the dormer, again, are all oriented at the back of the property and would have no impact on the neighboring properties. I just wanted to correct something. Mr. Zimmerman, the owner, has reached out to all of the adjacent neighbors. He knocked on the doors of 201, 203, 205, 207, at least 3 occasions, has mentioned, he spoke to the owner and the tenants of 199, and there's the owner of 197 indicated that she's known about this since at least January. He did make good faith efforts to reach out and speak to his neighbors, and has offered to share the drawings and discuss the plans with them multiple occasions. Happy to answer any questions that the committee has.
Yes, Yim?
Yes, I have one question. In this perspective, you showing two balconies, but I heard that you have proposed green roof.
Yes, so
where's the green roof?
If you could go to the scroll.
No,
It's
in the perspective. I'm so sorry.
It's
yeah.
not actually, the upper one is not actually a balcony, that is the green roof. And what's around it is simply fall protection. You're allowed to have.
So you go up with a spiral staircase is a roof access. You go up.
Yes, exactly. It's a tight property, so a spiral staircase had to be used.
But what
So that's
difference
access for maintenance.
What difference it is from a balcony then?
Under the zoning bylaw, it's different. It's not intended to be used as recreational space up there. It's purely for a green roof and water capture on a lot that has 71% lot coverage.
Okay, so I like
that
also,
there.
can you also speak to the, I believe in the planning report, they have suggested that you will remove the second story balcony.
So that was an earlier design. The original third floor deck, not the green roof, the actual deck, projected above. So yes, that deck there originally projected to the right over the open space, that open space there. And based on planning comments, that projection was removed so that it is entirely now within the footprint of the building itself. So we worked with planning to remove their objections to that. This design is reflective of planning's comments.
Okay, thank you. So they do not require you to remove I was thinking, I got mistaken that they asked you to remove the second floor balcony.
The green roof?
No.
Or the actual balcony itself?
Yeah, the second one, yes.
I understand. Yeah, it wasn't clear. I could have made that more clear in my letter. I apologize. But yeah, so that deck the second floor, or the deck used to be larger and project again cantilever over the space, the open space to the south, and that was removed and scaled back.
Right. Any further questions? Yes, Joanne? Joanne?
Just a couple of questions. Just looking at the survey from an access perspective, does the right-of-way extend to the rear building?
Yes, it does.
Okay, because it doesn't appear that way on the survey, but maybe it's okay.
I apologize. So the right-of-way, the building is set back 1.2 meters. So from the let's call it the front lot line.
Yes.
Where you see lot 43 and then the little arrow below it.
Yes.
Oh. So that is let's call it the front lot line of the subject property, and there's 1.2 meters a walkway along the front of it on its property. So the right of way extends to that 1.2.
Okay, so you're saying that the walkway in the front yard of 199A is a sufficient width that it links up to the depth of the right of way?
Precisely, yes.
Okay, so you were talking about I like your comment on this. In your submissions, you were talking about, the orientation to the laneway and the impact. can you speak to then why the access to, there's been a choice to have the access on the front yard rather than the laneway side? From an impact perspective?
So
And traffic
they're
up
all-
and down, activity up and down the laneway between 199 at the front? I'd
So-
like you to comment on that.
The existing entrances face the west side of the property, so those existing entrances are being maintained. A secondary entrance to the main unit exists. You can kind of see it in that.
It's on
area
one of
over
the
there.
side yards, right?
Yeah, it's on the south side yard. There's an entrance there. But new entrances onto the lane, for example, I don't think that would be really advisable.
Well, there's no setback there. You don't have any
Yeah,
setback.
there's no setback.
Yeah.
I don't think it's particularly safe. So we're simply maintaining the existing access configurations.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Galbraith,
Yes, sir.
I think it was Ms. Hallejo who suggested that the entrance was narrow, and there were 3 properties or so converging on this entrance, and that changes you were making would affect this. As I understand the application and the situation there, you're not making any real changes to that area, and that whatever problems are there are the same as they are existing.
It's an entirely existing configuration. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
We're not changing any of the access. We're not changing the number of units. It's entirely an existing situation.
Right. Thank you. Panel, any further questions?
You're welcome.
Any comments? Or do we have a motion? Yes, Nimrod?
Sure, I'll start. This is a very unique and unusual lot and unusual condition. And I think that the variances are minor, that the addition that is being proposed is modest. And so I would move approval of the requested variances. I'd like to tie it at a condition that it be tied to the plans. That way it would ensure that the top floor green roof remains a green roof and not an outdoor recreational area.
All right, thank you. Seconder, Yim? All right.
Oh, yes, I agree with the condition, because I think you can still access to the green roof by a ladder or just surface ladder, but they put a spiral staircase and then make me a bit nervous. So I would love to have that condition, make sure that it's a green roof and not accessible as recreation area. I'll second it.
All right, thank you. All in favor? You have your approval, sir. Thank you. Number 9, 29 Beverly Street. And the purpose of this application is to alter the lawful non-conforming detached garage by constructing a full second-story addition. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant. We have correspondence from planning and transportation services. We have a report from urban forestry. We have opposition from 52 Phoebe Street and 31 Beverly Street. Mr. Rowlands, please.
Good morning, members of the committee. My name is Simon Rowlands, and my address is 8 Pretoria Avenue.
All right, thank you. We have some opposition, so I think you better explain your application.
Yes, absolutely. This, the property at number 29 Beverly Street is an unusual situation in that it is actually zoned in an industrial area. So we are seeking permission to alter a legal non-conforming use. This property is a heritage home that was constructed in 1891 and has been in residential use since that time. But for some reason, at some point, it got zoned industrially. Directly to the south of number 29 Beverly Street sits a 96-unit, 11-story residential condo building that was constructed approximately 6 years ago. This structure looms over number 29, blocking almost all sunlight from the south and east. And directly adjacent to this property, on the property line, is a 3.5-story black brick wall. We are proposing to construct a second floor on an existing garage that has a peaked roof, and we're proposing a second floor addition that will have a flat roof. This is a very densely populated area. It's close to the very busy Queen Street West, shopping area, and in addition to the building directly to the south, across the laneway at the back of this property, which is called Kaylee Lane, there's another building, 180 John Street, which is a 7-story building. So the sort of natural sunlight in this area, pleasant views are really compromised for all of the buildings in this area, but especially my client's property at number 29. Directly to the west of Kaylee Lane sits 190 John Street, which is set further back from the laneway, providing some views to the west. Our proposal for this garage is tucked tightly against the 3.5-story brick wall that I mentioned directly to the south. I would like to acknowledge that we have received some letters of objection to this proposal, and would like to sort of try to address some of those items. Starting with density, there was a comment.
So,
raised
Mr. Rowlands, did you want to wait? We have opposition that's going to weigh in on this. Did you want to wait until you hear from them and address the issues they raise?
Absolutely, sure. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
So, continuing with the form of the proposed second floor addition to the structure, the garage is within inches of the property line to the south. That's the existing condition, and we're proposing to just build directly above the footprint of the current garage, and then add a staircase to the east on the house side of the structure to access it. The garage is set back from the north property line by 0.53 meters. And the access to the garage is on the house side, the east side of the structure. And we have taken consideration to put the access, there are stairs going along the building to the south across the back wall of the garage, and we have extended screening around these stairs in order to have privacy for our clients for their use of the second floor of this garage. It's intended as an accessory amenity for exercise use. There is no plan to have a toilet or plumbing in this area, and I would like to mention that the use of the existing house, there is no planned change to the use of the property. This is meant for their use. It's not being done as sort of a laneway suite or a rental property or an office building or a commercial thing. It is for their use. And part of this is their property. When the building got constructed, right adjacent to it, it looms over their property. They don't have sort of the normal kind of amenities that one would expect in a backyard. It's right beside, a towering building. So, our clients are hoping to add a nice amenity that they can enjoy for their health and fitness and so on.
All right, so Mr. Rollins, your time is up. If you could just wrap up.
Yes, in terms of the form of the building, we've sloped the back. We've kept the roof as low as possible. So we've tried to keep this building as sort of tight as possible to have it will have an impact, but to keep the impact minimal to the neighbors.
All right, thank you. Panel, do you have any questions? All right. Mr. Battison? Oh, pardon me, Mr. Battison's the owner. Let's move on to Mr. Couto.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
My name is Peter Couto, C-O-U-T-O, and I live at 52 Phoebe Street, Toronto, Ontario, M5T1A9. I'm someone involved in community affairs. I'm the president of the Brown Sons of Soul Residents Association and a member of the Grange Community Association, and I'm speaking in opposition of the application regarding 29 Beverly Street. Although I'm not directly affected, I'm concerned that this application sets precedent for the area, plus the actual fallout to neighbors, especially at 31 Beverly. My arguments are that the variance requested is not minor, that the proposal is not desirable as it's out of character with historical aspects of the neighborhood. The massing of the building will block light and view of sky by the residents of 31 Beverly Street, in addition to the existing blockage that exists already to south of it. I was at 31 Beverly Street's kitchen and saw with my own eyes how it blocks the sky and light. On top of it, the outdoor staircase will give people accessing that second floor a direct view into the kitchen at 31 Beverly Street. So this contravenes the right to privacy of the residents there. Finally, the proposal does not maintain the general intent and purposes of the city's zoning code and bylaw, in my humble opinion. This is extra space that could be used as additional living space, although it was stated that's not the case. It's an encroachment on people's private space, which is already rampant in the downtown area particularly, and the historical characteristics of the city are being changed irreversibly by proposals like this one. Change and progress are good, but need to respect the needs of other people. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'm ready to answer them.
All right, thank you. Panel, any questions? All right, let's move on to Maxime Stock.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello, Maxime Stock. I reside at 31 Beverly Street, and I am speaking on behalf of me and my mother, who's also lived at 31 Beverly Street for 44 years, but her health can't permit her to speak for herself. 31 Beverly Street is a neighbor of 29 Beverly, and we live in an identical heritage listed single dwelling home. I submitted a letter with issues that concern us about the application for minor variance. But I'm going to focus on the very main issue of privacy. I'm opposed to the application for minor variances at 29 Beverly Street because a two-story auxiliary structure will deprive us of privacy on the first and the second floor entirely. This construction will give 29 Beverly Street a focused and direct view inside our home and into our garden because of the structure's proximity and its height. I've included photos of the present view from the interior of 31 Beverly Street in the letter I submitted, from the first and second floor rear windows of our home. So if you scroll down to photo 2 and 3, so that is from our kitchen. And then if you scroll down a little more, that's from the second, you'll see the second floor. So the photos show the proximity of the present garage, and adding a second floor with a balcony and exterior stairwell will give 29 Beverly Street an unobstructed view into our home, into our interior living space, and into our garden, a perch view. The auxiliary structure includes a balcony and exterior stairway to access the second floor space, which also shortens the setback to our rear wall. The balcony and exterior staircase increases the second floor surface area of the auxiliary structure, and it'll give 29 Beverly a height and angle from which they have a focused view of our interior, but also the garden and the gardens of 44 and 47 Stephanie Street. So, in addition, the added density will change the exterior garden space, not only for us at 31 Beverly Street, but also for 33 Beverly and 44 and 47 Stephanie Street. The two-story auxiliary structure will change our garden sky view to one of a wall obstruction, and it'll box in the gardens even further. All the neighboring homes will suffer a loss of exterior sky view, privacy, and peacefulness. So the proposed auxiliary structure's second floor includes windows. These windows will further deprive 31 Beverly Street of privacy, giving 29 Beverly Street focused view into our home from their interior. Presently, 31, 33 Beverly Street, 44 and 47 Stephanie Street have back gardens that provide much needed green space, privacy, and quiet despite the density and growth in the neighborhood. And it's true, there are balconies in the back. These balconies are from a city housing building, 190 John Street. Unlike what 29 Beverly Street has proposed, the City Planning Committee allowed a substantial setback for the balconies. It included a large green space, so all the occupants in the building and on Beverly Street and on Stephanie Street could use their outdoor space in a relative privacy and harmony. The two-story auxiliary structure proposed by 29 Beverly Street will box in 4 houses, 31 and 33 Beverly and 44 and 47 Stephanie Street, because of its height and mass, and it's going to deprive us all of privacy, sky view, and increase in that shadow. There was mention of the gray wall building, but 29 Beverly Street took part in all the discussions with the builder of that building, and they were handsomely compensated and agreed to the black wall that they now have. So they can't complain now, and they can't, that's a ridiculous argument. The garage, so like to conclude, I oppose the application for the minor variances made by 29 Beverly Street because the structure will deprive us of interior and exterior privacy. It'll box in the already dense and shared exterior space, and it's going to deprive us of daylight and sky view. The garage is a non-conforming structure. The proposed construction would double the surface area of the structure. This would go against the city regulations, which allow for repair or replacement of a non-conforming structure, but not for doubling of its size. And the variances are going to have a negative effect on many homes. And yes, so we hope that the committee will take into consideration all these points that I've put forth and consider, we're all for growth, but we also think that there needs to be a a respect for each other's privacy. And as you can see, they'll be able to see directly into.
Miss
kitchen.
Stoke, your time is up. You could just
Okay,
wrap up.
thank you.
All right, thank you.
No, I'm concluded. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Gurgis? Mr. Gurgis on the line?
Yeah, okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. So, I live in the adjacent home, 47 Stephanie Street, right behind, right behind just north of the structure in which they're assuming the building, a two-story garage, whatever you want to call it, with green space on top. I wish I could be as articulate as everybody else, but I won't be, I'll be honest. So there is obviously interior privacy issues and exterior privacy issues. There's a backyard directly below, and to be honest, even right now, there are some issues with even the noise and other aspects, like, yeah, that do go on, even with the privacy of the fence and the low level of the garage. But the main concern is obviously exterior and interior privacy, like Maxime was touching upon. But also there is, even though it seemed as though the builder or whoever was speaking at the beginning was referencing the lack of sunlight and everybody suffers, but there is still some form of sunlight in the middle of the day when it does reach the peak at the top of all the homes. So there is still reduced sunlight, and it is a good form of green space for all of us to have, and the lack of privacy will make it a bit more uncomfortable for anyone who does live in the area, or 45 or 47, which is
So,
both me and my father.
Mr. Gurgis, could you show us on this location map where your property is exactly?
Do I have control or no? It's it's just north 47, 45, just north top right of it's perpendicular on the right side.
Oh, okay.
Right behind. Yeah,
Yep.
you see that 47, 45?
Yeah.
So 47 is me, 45 is my father. Okay. He may speak. I think he is here too. So yeah, so right in that area we have green space, we have backyard dining and such. Even without the privacy, at least without the view, there is still a little bit of noise, like day to day, at night, so on and so forth, which is obviously understandable. That's okay, but obviously this will reach a step further with regards to privacy. They'll be able to see down below, especially with the green rooftop, the flat roof that they will supposedly have access to. It's supposedly to have more accessibility and freedom. Let's be real, like, whatever they're going to be doing on the rooftop, they'll have more socials on the rooftop. It's not just them who's going to be an invasion of our privacy. It's going to be other people who they may have over too. It's kind of, like Maxime said, there is room for growth in the area, and it is really dense, but I don't think just the kind of growth as a kind of group we are looking for in the area. So invasion privacy, interior, exterior, sunlight will be affected, and comfort for us. And I don't know if this really affects it too much, but the construction, I don't know how long it's supposed to last. I wish, like I said, I could be as articulate and knowledgeable as Maxime was, but that'll affect us for obviously a few months.
Yeah.
With whatever else is going on in the area, the parking in the back and the noise, and it's not worth the trouble for it. The benefits don't outweigh, the pros don't outweigh the cons for us in any way at all. So yeah, I'll end it there, I guess.
All right, thank you, Mr. Gurgis. Panel, any questions? All right, Mr. Rollins? Oh, pardon me, Sahir, do you have a question? No. All right, Mr. Rollins?
Yes, I'd like to, a number of the people have talked about the privacy issues on this, and our clients have reached out to Ms. Stock, who at number 131 Beverly Street, to speak to her about that issue. And we also want privacy. This is an exercise area. My client does not want to be have the feeling that he's being watched while he's exercising either. Our current design There's been made reference to a balcony, which we are not proposing any sort of balcony structure. It is really a stairway and a landing. There's no sitting area there. It's just for access. And we are wrapping the north and east corner where the entry is to provide visual screening from the neighbors. We would be willing to sort of extend that screening a little further to the south as part of this, but in terms of privacy for the neighbors to the north, directly to the north at number 45 and 47 Stephanie, there are no windows planned on that wall whatsoever, so there is no overlook into their gardens. I would like to mention that there is no plan for any rooftop space or green roofs on this. This is solely sort of a second floor addition. The situation of this area is almost like a courtyard. It's surrounded by the brick wall to the south, numbers 29, 31, 33 Beverly to the east, and number 45 and 47 Stephanie Street to the north, all of which have windows overlooking the back garden areas currently. It's our view that this would not be adding a significant new amount of windows over this area. This area is intended for exercise and so on. It's not, a living space where people would be spending time at the window, etc. And we are orienting the window to the south side, in order to sort of accommodate privacy issues. So I believe that we have, attempted in our design to mitigate the impact of this. The form of this building, while it's not a laneway suite, is very similar in form to a laneway suite scenario, which is part of the official plan of the city and are getting approved in neighborhoods like this throughout the downtown area. The difference here is that this is being proposed for the sole use of the owners of number 29. I would like to add that we have received letters of support from not letters of support, but a letter from Heritage saying they have no concerns. There has been a report from Transport saying that they have no concerns. Urban Forestry has requested an application regarding the tree to the north, and the planning department has not issued any negative comments on this application. So I would, like to express to the members of the committee that we are, taking what is a peaked roof on a one-story structure, and we are making, a two-story structure. The increase in height is 1.9 meters approximately, and would like to submit that the application is, minor in its impact and meets the 4 tests of the Committee of Adjustment.
All right, thank you, panel. Nimrod, do you have a question?
Yeah. Yes, I do. My question is the main townhouse use. How many residential units are within that main townhouse?
There's 2. It's there's an independent 3rd floor, and the rest is it's like owner occupied. So this is a no change in the use of this property. There's no change in the density of the property, etc.
So there are two residential units within the townhouse building.
Yes.
Okay. So doesn't that explain then why there isn't enough perhaps exercise space for the people who live there? in that, I mean, you're asking for 300 square feet of space. I'm trying to understand why people aren't able to exercise in their own residential unit, why you need this additional space.
I think that this, this unit, in its unique situation with a building, directly adjacent to it, that, the backyard is not as sort of, I would say, enjoyable as other backyards. So this is a way of providing, an amenity space to the
They use it all the time.
to the structure. The garage is currently used as an exercise area, but it's also a parking area.
That's the neighbor's parking.
Okay, panel, any further questions? Yim, do you have a question?
Oh, I don't have any question. I was going to make a comment.
Okay. Go ahead.
Oh, I can wait if we are in committee. Are we in committee now?
Yeah, we're in committee now.
Okay. I just want to make one comment is that all the concerns are not relating to any variances in front of us. We only have one variance, which is the zoning, that I assume if it's a residential zone, that it just very fit into even a laneway house, and it's only second story, and there's a very big wall on the south side or built structure. I do not think that it will increase the shadow. I mean, it's already been shadow, and also the focus is really we are looking at one variance. I'm not too sure all these concerns we can comment because they're not asking for anything else.
Yes, Joanne? Joanne?
I do have some concerns with respect to this application. What's before us is, an application to allow an extension to a use that is not authorized under the bylaw. So we do have to consider that. And my main concern is with respect to impact. And I think that is mainly because of the site characteristics, both of this property and the neighboring property, and a comment that was generally made that it's almost very compact, almost courtyard in those few properties. And I think, in my opinion, the impact of the second story on a garage that is not a permitted use will have an adverse impact above and beyond what it already exists, and I'm not in support of the application.
Can I add that? But the existing use of the whole property is not an industrial use already. I'm not too sure why adding this will make it sort of not acceptable. At the moment, as I say, that the house was built as residential and always have been used as residential, and it's just in a zoning obscurity that it was so industrial.
Yeah, I have no concern. Like, it's not the house I'm concerned with. It's the accessory structure that's also not permitted, and adding a second story to that, and the impacts from a shadow, light, the tightness of the lots, the adjoining lots on Stephanie, the compactness of the area. In my view, the impacts are too great from the addition of a second story to the ancillary detached garage. That is my position.
And
Yes,
I would
Nimrod.
add my comments to agree with Joanne and her comments. I also have similar concerns about the impacts on the privacy.
Yeah, I would say that it appears to be hard to impact the privacy when you're surrounded by apartment buildings. These people want to put a second story on their townhouse. They're concerned about privacy, so concerned that they put up screening on their stairway, which for the most part if we've seen it at all on any of the applications that I've been party to, it's been very rarely. So I wouldn't think that they'd be looking into anybody's yard or looking into their house. And it's one thing for 31 to say, oh, we can see the garage from our bedroom, but we don't know what you can see from the garage. So I think privacy is a red herring, is really not much of an issue in this situation. Yes, is here.
Thank you to the colleagues for all the comments. It helped me think about my own. I did note that there was no objection from apart from forestry condition number 2. Planning had no objection, transportation has no objection, heritage absolutely has no objection. And, as Mr. Chair, you've quite correctly pointed out, these properties are surrounded by buildings from which, people can observe the backyards. So quite frankly, I look at the variances that are being requested, or one variance that's being requested, and I would be in support of the application as is.
All right, do we have a motion? Yim?
Sahi, you want to move a motion, or do you want me to move a motion?
It's okay, you got your hand up.
Yes. Okay, I just want to give you a... Okay, I also just want to repeat that if it's zone residential, they can build a second story. And of course, the privacy issue was always there, and then we have a lot of mitigation to do that. But in front of us, it's really just one variance. And I will move for approval as it is, with no conditions.
Well,
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's a forestry number 2 conditions.
Right. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Okay. All in favor of the motion? Okay. I can vote. All opposed to the motion? Okay, my vote counts to break a tie. You have your, you have approval, sir. Thank you. Number 10.
Chair, could I ask that we have 5 minutes?
Okay.
Thank you.
couldn't, I was surprised when I saw, I didn't realize there was all kinds of opposition. Because all they're it's a little building, it's 2 stories, there's another 2-story building beside it, and then there's a temple there, and there's a couple of semis, and then there's an apartment building at the corner. So I don't know what people are worrying about a 2-story building, because there's all kinds of apartment buildings there. I come out of my driveway in the building and it's right opposite. So we got a 13-story building with a roof garden right across the road from it. Okay. Well. Is that you, Pavik? No. Oh, that's Pavik? Yeah, I'm Lori. Lori. Okay, you're not on there. Okay, well, we got a quorum, so I'm sure Yim will be back any second. Moving on now to number 1063 Strathern Road. Purpose of the application is to construct a 3-story detached house with an integral garage, a front porch, a rear first floor deck and rear second and third floor balconies. A front yard hammerhead driveway will also be constructed on the lot. In this application, we have materials submitted by the applicant. We have a report from Transportation Services and Toronto and Region Conservation Authority, and 4 form letters in support. Mr. Pfeffer?
Yeah, it's Stan Macro. I'm speaking on behalf of the applicant. Jim Pfeffer is on vacation this week, so I am principal of the firm, Macro Associates Architects. I will be making a presentation today, and we're at 3 Bridgman Avenue, Suite 201.
All right, sir. Well, we have a lot of variances, so perhaps you better give us a presentation.
Okay, sure. So first of all, just as a overview, my client spoke to all of his adjacent neighbors, number 68, number 64, 60, 60, 65, and 61, and they're all in support of the application. 61, we made some a minor amendment to the application to reduce the stair width, so we're actually eliminating the stair on the south side. That their note has been sent into that. We also had extensive conversations with the planning department, back and forth about the front yard setback. That was really our only concern. Everything else she was supportive of, including the height of the building, the driveway, the length of the building, the coverage. She had no issues with that. And we did actually move the house slightly back on the property to make the front yard setback encroachment less. I can address all of these items specifically, but in the end of the day, the planner was okay with our complete submission. So I can, if you don't mind, I have presentation material that I can use for this application. If you could please, yeah, that's it there, thank you. So this is the front of the house, and one thing you may notice is the house, the facade steps back. So there's kind of three main walls of the house, and the second wall is the one, these corners here. The outer corners actually line up with the neighboring homes. So this deals with the front yard setback. We may as well start with that. Variance. You would please go to page number 3. So that's actually, that's page 4. Yeah, 3. Yeah. So you can see there the that kind of dashed line, that dashed red line, that is the how our house aligns with the neighboring homes. So it's really just the section in the middle of the house that projects. So we feel that the house very much conforms with the front yard setback in terms of the character of the neighborhood, the streetscape, and it's the porch itself that creates the variance. Furthermore, variances for reduced front yard setback have been granted for number 9, 14, 39, 49, 67, 137, 149 Strathern. So the majority of the lots on this new curving street have these setback variances. So definitely within the scope of the neighborhood. Maybe we can do some of the other ones, starting with variance number 1. If you go back to page 4, please. Oh, sorry, page 3. Yeah, page 3. Yeah, page 3, yeah. So there's a small platform on the south side where the dining room is. It's close to grade, it's about approximately 3 feet above grade. That's a variance because it's closer than 4 feet from the property line. It's supposed to be in line with the side yard, but we have a barbecue there and we really need the space. My client has discussed this with the next door neighbor, and his main concern was to maintain the cedar hedge, which we were committed to doing. And further to that, the variance that had to do with the stair setback, we've dropped. So this staircase here that's on the drawing is actually gone. If you can see me, I don't know if you can see me, I'm pointing it with my mouse. I'm not sure whether you guys are seeing that. Are you or no?
No.
No, you don't
I
see it.
see
Okay,
your.
yeah. All right. So anyway, it's just on the south side of the of that breakfast nook. Okay, so then I'm just going to continue on the order of the variances. The height, we're only 14 centimeters over the height limit, which was insignificant. The planner did not have any comment on that. Variance number 3, the minimum front yard setback, we just dealt with that. Let's talk about variance number 4. The minimum required front yard side yard setback is 1.2 meters. Well, as you can see, on the north side of the house, there's this serrated edge, and it's at these tight corners that we have the variance that we're seeking of 1.03 meters. But where the wider part is actually 4 feet. So it was just a way to accomplish getting the house internal requirements I mean, really, the approximate 4-foot side yard setback is achieved there. It's just, it's a serrated edge. Maximum permitted length of a detached house, so that's a variance number 5.
So, Mr. Mako, your time is really up, so if you could sort of wrap up.
Okay, well, I think the main issues that, you know, I mean, nobody had any issues with the length. Planning department didn't have any issues. Just for your education, the length number is measured to a platform that's really very close to grade. So the length of the house is a lot less. It's closer to 21.2 meters, and that is consistent with the neighborhood as well. There's many precedents of that. If we go to page 6 in our booklet, which I'll also deal with in terms of the Public Works had an issue with our hammerhead driveway. There's lots of examples of hammerhead driveways and circular driveways, so that's definitely the character of the development of the neighborhood. In terms of density, we're well within the density of two-story structures. We're at approximately 0.56, and there's numerous other homes variances that have 0.56 density on 2 stories. We're asking for 0.72, but that's entirely enclosed within the 3rd floor. So it's not visible. I mean, there's no windows, there's no dormers facing the street. So really that perceived density on the 3rd floor is not really perceived because it's totally contained within the roof's scape. So essentially the density is 0.56. And then you can sort of see this column here in that chart. There's numerous other examples of density at 0.56 on 2-story dwelling.
All right, Mr. Mako, your time is way up, so I'm going to have to call you.
Okay, well, if there's any questions on any specific variances, we'd be happy to address them.
All right, thank you. Panel, any? Yes, Joanne?
So I just want to confirm then, with respect to variance number 12, you are asking to remove the variance with respect to the stairs on the south side lot line, am I correct?
That's right, yeah.
Okay. With respect to the comment from traffic planning and the hammerhead driveway, reducing it to a maximum of 2 meters, are you in agreement with that, or are you asking us to not consider that comment?
Well, that's kind of a sort of a standard pro forma comment that you'd expect from transportation, but I've kind of made a case, as you saw on page 6, that really there's numerous variances on that street where people had hammerhead driveways. We can make that driveway porous, but I would like to say that the impact of having a hammerhead driveway is not going to be significant. The rendering that you saw on the very first page, page 1, shows it.
Excuse me, I'm not, sorry, I just want to clarify my question. I'm not suggesting that other hammerhead driveways don't exist. I thought their comment was with respect to the width of the hammerhead driveway.
Yeah, well, we feel that it's reasonable to ask for the extra meter because without it, it won't work. And that's why we're kind of asking for that. So we definitely would appreciate if that variance could be granted. Thank you.
Any further questions?
Sorry, did you address the revision to variance number 12?
Yeah, there was something sent in about that we are, there was actually correspondence sent to the city requesting that variance 12, I can just repeat it for clarification. The south side stairs will be located 0.3 meters from the south side lot line. That variance is deleting. However, the part of the variance that says north side staircase, that we are keeping. So that it's just the one to do with the south side. Again, it was acknowledgement of our next door neighbor who did not want to have his feeder trees affected by that staircase.
Thank you. Panel, any further questions? We take it into committee. Any comments, or do we have a motion? Yes, Yim?
Yeah, in my opinion, this the massing and also this the scale and actually fit into the neighborhood, and I have no and the variance they asking most of them are minor, and I have no problem supporting this application. I'd like to move for approval with amended variance number 12, and is there any other conditions?
I don't believe
That's
so.
that's my movement. Okay.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Joanne, second the motion? All right, all in favor? You have your approval, sir, thank you. Number 11, 662 Dundas Street West. Purpose of this application is to construct a four-story, two-unit residential building at the rear of the lot fronting the rear public lane with a third-floor platform. The existing two-story townhouse at the front of the lot will also be altered by constructing a third-story addition with a rooftop terrace. On this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, correspondence from Transportation Services, support from 660, and opposition from 3 Casimir, 6-8 Hickory Street, and 2 Hickory Street. Mr. Blonder?
Mr. Chair, it's just getting a bit difficult to hear you. If you can move the microphone closer.
Can't get a lot closer. Mr. Blonder?
Yes, good afternoon. Can you hear me? Yes, okay.
Yes, I'm sorry, it's not Mr. Miss Blonder, please.
It's Miss, that's okay. Thank you for acknowledging that. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. May I please ask that the rendering will be shared on the screen?
Do you live at the 662?
No, the address is 192 Spadina Avenue.
Thank you.
M5T 2C7.
Thank you.
I'm Nama Blonder. Here with me is Misha Berezniak. We are the owners of the property and the architects behind this proposal. We are proposing a modest, multi-generational, owner-occupied, a residential infill at the back of the property facing the laneway. The property is located on Dundas Street West in downtown Toronto, and according to the city's guidelines, Dundas, being an avenue, could accommodate commercial residential buildings up to 20 meters in height. We are proposing a much smaller project in scale though. We received a letter of support from the adjacent neighbor, the owner of 660 Dundas Street West, and verbal support from the other neighbor, and both city planning and zoning were satisfied with the proposal. We also received 4 objection letters with a total of 9 comments, and I would like to summarize and address their concerns one by one. Thank you for those letters. The comment about building up to the property line and vehicle access conditions. We are actually improving the access conditions as we provide a laneway widening and a setback, so we're not building up to the property line. The comment about many people living in the unit, the number of units is permitted and it's not one of the required variances. The comment about construction disturbing the laneway, it's a very small project and we are reviewing smarter methods of delivery such as modular or panelized systems that will minimize work on site. Either way, the scale of construction is very small, so logistical aspects can be easily addressed. The comments that people who move in or out will block the laneway, this is a rare condition since the unit will be owner occupied. We will be moving in. Comment about the garbage being thrown at the laneway and not in the garbage bins at the front. I have to say I found this comment a little bit surprising to even be written. We will not throw our garbage in the laneway, but also to answer it to the point, it is a very common condition all across the city. Compromised privacy, there is no direct view to the neighbors' backyards, but to their parking lots. Also, this is not an all-glass design. Beyond that, building a residential unit on a laneway is permitted and encouraged by the city since July 2019. Comment about the fence. We will definitely have a fence between us and the adjacent townhouses, absolutely. We only ask to not have a fence to the laneway to have this open feel and not gated design. Two comments about windows. So the overlook condition will be between the existing house and the new one. So both of them on our property, which we will address in form and materials at the design stage. And per the window facing west, which the letter refers to, it's very limited in size because of the building code requirements. And also we will have a fence. So the small size of the window plus the fence will really minimize any overlook conditions if at all. And my last comment, the comment about increasing traffic. The concept does not include parking because we don't own a car. We believe and promote an environmentally friendly lifestyle that uses public transit, and the property is 10 meters away from a streetcar stop that gets you to 2 different subway lines in the city. To wrap it up, and to our neighbors, this project in many ways the best one we can hope for. First of all, it improves the existing situation because it removes an ugly garage, widens the laneway and has an additional setback. And the alternative by the zoning could be commercial use, which will have much larger impact in terms of noise, traffic, and loading. But more importantly, this project aligns with so many of the good things we talk about in the city so often: gentle density, multi-generational housing, laneway improvements and beautification. And I'm personally very excited about what it all means and how it comes together in this example. Thank you.
Thank you. Panel, any questions? Yes, Yim?
Oh, I just like to clarify one thing, that you're required to convey 2 meters of land at the back to the city. Is that right?
Yes, it's correct.
Okay, and then the current design is already the setback is measuring from the after the convey of the land.
Correct.
Or is included? Yeah.
No, it's after the conveyance.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, who's speaking?
I introduced Misha at the beginning. So Misha is also the owner and the architect of the proposal. But I can repeat what he said, which was correct to both questions.
Okay, thank you. Michael Huang?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Can we have your name and your address for the record, sir?
Okay, my name is Michael Huang. I'm the owner of 666 Dundas Street West, which is immediately to the side of the applicant.
Yes.
I have some serious concept before I mention it. My serious and my objection to the west side window and the door. The townhouse in the area the very narrow, only approximately around 3.5 meter width of the lot. So it's around 12, a little more than 12 feet from the lot side. The proposal for the window and the door on the west side wall of the townhouse is very close to our proximity to our building, to my second floor bedroom window, and that's seriously invading our privacy. And another thing is when I first received the letter of hearing, I was kind of amazed and shocked with the number of variants, with 22 variants in total. That's not minor. It's like a major, but not that. But with the applicant, they did not console us or reach out to us. There's a lot of questions. I spoke to our neighbor. We have a lot of questions, and nobody reached out to us and explained to us what's on variance. So it would be nice, but they chose not to. And another thing I want to say is with the proposal, with that said, with the proposal for the 4 residential building at the rear of the townhouse, That's very serious safety concern. Okay, now you block your emergency exit from the building. Where do you want to go? Where people are going to go in case of emergency? Not only so this so sum it up. This is not only invasive of privacy, safety concern, accessibility, and where to go, and also the height of the building is obstructing the view. You are more than 2 meters. They allow 40 meter height. You want like 16 more than 2 meter height. And no one's speaking to us or reach out to us or even, explain to us what's going on. So I talked to my neighbor and we just don't know what's most of us are homeowner. We're not like a committee of adjustment. We have to really scratch our heads with what is on this variance.
All right, sir. Thank you. Panel, do you have any questions? All right. Wayne Chow.
Hello.
Mr. Chow?
Hi, can you hear us?
Yes, we can.
Hi, good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name's Barry Chow. For the record, the address is 10 Gathlight Court, Toronto. Mr. Wayne Chow is my father, so I'm his son. And Mr. Wayne Chow is the owner of 664 Dundas Street West. So it's the property to the west of the subject property. So I'll be assisting with Mr. Wayne Chow's concern. So firstly, I just want to clarify, Ms. Blonder talked about getting verbal consent. I just want to clarify that my father said that no plan was officially reviewed with him. And so we do not have any verbal consent, official consent on the final plan that was presented. And we just found out about this more recently. So first, we have some confusion about requested variances. So number 19, the applicant was requesting a fence not be present, and now they have changed that. I'm also confused as to how they will access the laneway garbage, because at this moment, if there is no fence, that will mean that the front unit will need to use our property to transfer garbage from their unit to the laneway, which is inappropriate. And so we do request that there are no variance provided for the fence, and that be a gated fence. And you may want to clarify how the front unit will be accessing garbage as the garbage is taken up in the laneway. Second concern is regarding privacy. So variance number 15. Our bedroom windows, rear bedroom window is actually on the right adjacent to the common lot line. So I don't see how privacy will not be lost. For one, there is no west facing window, and there will be a new one that's added, which is right beside our bedroom window, second bedroom window. Secondly, the addition looks like a laneway addition, but it's actually non-subordinate to our building. So the bedroom windows actually are all facing north, and so variance 15, they're asking that the variance be reduced from 11 meters to 3.5 meters, and that actually will separate our windows by that same distance, because our rear windows line up. So that is a big significant reduction, big concern regarding privacy, because there's a direct look into our bedroom windows, and there's a privilege of view that they have on the third floor windows that look into us, and then there's the terrace and the balcony that has that privilege of view. And then that's number 13 variance is the same idea, where they propose adding a west window, which is at 1.27 meters from the lot line when the 5.5 meters. So in summary, we do have concerns, and we do fully object to the variances requests, especially number 19, 15, and 13, due to privacy concerns and our potential use for property. Thank you.
Panel, any questions? We go back to Ms. Blonder.
Yes, sir. Misha will respond.
Hi, thank you. So I'll repeat and elaborate a bit about how we address the comments. First of all, regarding the fencing, again, our intent was only to eliminate the full fencing of where the property is facing the laneway. We definitely do want to have a fence between us and the adjacent property, so that will definitely be part of the design. In terms of the overlook, so we are the facing walls are facing are between the two structures on our own property, and the separation distance, well, we would of course like to have more, is required to achieve achieve this modest intensification. But more importantly, the variance we're asking is about the overlook between the buildings on the site, and the way the building is oriented, it's not creating a privacy issue to our neighbor to the west. Again, regarding the window to the side, so first of all, a door was mentioned as well, but the door there is existing, and original, we're not proposing to change it. That window, it's not a critical part of the design, but as mentioned before, it's a minor it's a minor addition, and will be quite small, limited just by the building code. As you can see, the additional window is the same size as the existing window on the ground level. Thank you.
Okay, panel, any questions? All right, let's go into committee. Any comments? Yes, Joanne?
I have questions.
Yeah.
I have questions.
Go ahead.
I have a number of questions, Chair.
Yes.
So, I'd like to hear some submissions with respect to, variance 8, the height of variance 9, the separation distance between the existing dwelling and the proposed dwelling, and how you feel that cumulatively the variances being requested meet the tests under the Planning Act. Please and thank you.
Thank you. Could you repeat the numbers, or that you were referring to?
Well, I think, okay, so variance number 8, for example, I'd like a comment with respect to that. I'd like a comment with respect to the height. I'd like a comment with respect to the separation distance. Variance required between the existing building and the proposed structure at the back. And I'd like some submissions with respect to how cumulatively the 22 variances being requested meet the tests under the Planning Act. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll start with the last question. Many of in spite of the number of variances, most of them are, some of them are repeating themselves, and they're not necessarily they don't necessarily indicate the level of intensification or variance proposed. And on the larger scheme, we are located in a location where the official plan would allow us to do a building up to 20 meters or 6 stories. I'll just mention historical. We actually had some proposal that we didn't pursue, but that we presented to city staff for a 6-story building on the lot, and it was supported. It's supported to go, by the way, through Committee of Adjustment. More specifically, for the separation, we would have, of course, wanted to have even better separation, but considering the location and the fact that these are not, for both units, these are not the only, their only windows or opportunities to the outside view, we think it is absolutely acceptable. In terms of height, it is correct that we are going about 2 meters above the permitted height, but this is not something that happens throughout the entire site elevation of the building. It's a localized impact, and we are doing that while still staying under the angular plane required from the rear property line. So there is no additional, there is no impact of shadowing beyond what is already permitted by the zoning bylaw.
Any further questions? Any comments?
The building, though, you are asking for a variance to the angular plane. Am I correct?
Yes, so the only variance we were asking for the angular plane was to facilitate a localized dormer to allow an exit to the third story floor balcony, which was required for egress. And we originally provided it to the city. We mentioned that it was specifically to that dormer. But it was rewarded to be general, just general variance from angular plane. That's the only place we asked for that.
Thank you very much.
All right. So, yes, Yim?
Yes, I have one question. I just like to ask the applicant. You also propose to increase the height for the main dwelling, right? The main house.
Correct.
Yeah. By how much from the existing? Another proposal?
It's the height. We propose that additional story. We propose an additional 1 story, which will be less than which will be less than a 1-story increase, yes, because it already has a pitched roof. I would mention though that this has an impact on the required density, which is not very large, but not on the height, because we are still way below the allowed height on the property.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Sahir, do you have a question?
No, not quite.
All right, do we have any further questions or comments, or do we have a motion? Yes,
I've got some
Nimrod.
comments. I do have concerns with the application because there are just so many variances. It's a very complex application given the very narrow lot dimensions, and so it does have impacts on the abutting neighbors. And so I feel that the extent of the variances are just so, there are so many that it's not minor in nature.
I'd like to add my comment too. It is a very difficult application for me because I know the area very well. And one thing that was considering that I know there are a lot of illegal conversions in the area, and some of the conditions are really like actually have safety issues there. So people come in and try to do it, go through the proper process is a very good idea. But I also agree that within the 22 variances, I will support some of it, except that they also try to also increase the density of the main house. And I will find that cumulatively, it does create a tremendous impact, especially I think on 664. And it's a very massive wall that they're looking at. And I do not think you can really correct that in any how. It's a bit, it's a very good idea. It's a very narrow lot, but I think it's a little bit too ambitious, in my opinion.
I'd agree with the comments of some of my colleagues. Certainly, you know, the applicant should be applauded for trying to add some housing units and some density to, you know, downtown site, which is encouraged. However, with the extension of the Main Street facing addition, plus basically what almost reads like a 4-story building at the rear, I think it's almost like a house behind a house. It's certainly not within the confines of what, you know, we're seeing built on laneways. And I think, given the characteristics of this lot and the neighboring lots, I think it's just contextually and cumulatively too much, and I can't support the application.
Yes, here.
Mr. Chair, I think I'd like to concur with Ms. Hayes and Ms. Yim because, Ms. Chan, sorry. It just seems like an extensive, tremendous massing at the back. It just overwhelms both the neighbors on either side. These lots are extremely narrow to begin with. And when you get the idea, I mean, it's a great idea to improve the laneways of this property, as we can see from the images that we've seen. But the massing of a structure that is so big behind these smaller homes, I think is quite detrimental to the existing neighbors on either side. So, and I think given that and the fact that there's so many variances, I would concur with Ms. Hayes not be in a position to support this application.
Okay, well, I don't disagree. I find, seems to me this is really two applications, one for the existing townhouse and one for the laneway suite, and the applicants might have been better off making two separate applications, but of course it's one property, so I have trouble understanding what a secondary suite is and whether the laneway suite is included in the secondary suites. But in any event, so can we have a motion? Yes, Joanne.
Sure, Chair, I will start. For the reasons that have been provided by myself and my colleagues, I would move a motion to refuse the application, as I do not believe that cumulatively the variances being requested meet the tests under the Planning Act.
We have a seconder. Nimrod, all in favor of the motion? Say here. Applications refused. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, we just need to switch the YouTube stream, so we need a few-minute break.
Okay.
So anyone who is watching, we're going to stop the existing stream, and you'll be looking for the one that's dated July 28 p.m. the 1st.